Free advice, would you like some free advice? Free advice forever.
Welcome back to the podcast, everybody. We are reborn as new hosts. Over there, we got Morgan Beard.
And over there, we got Rob Zaleski.
That's right. We're coming at you almost live in this episode. This podcast will be released very shortly after it's recorded. That's not quite live, but
the livest we've ever been.
8 months pregnant, maybe? Where do you think life begins, Morgan?
Conception. Moving on.
Yes. Okay. This episode coming at
Just
you,
kidding.
about to come.
Yeah. Our jizz will be hitting your eardrums
Yeah.
very shortly.
Yeah, good. Now that we've gotten rid of all the uncool audience, whoever's still with us, we got a juicy one for you today.
Fuck yeah. Tell them why
Yeah.
it's going to be so juicy.
Oh, well, because Rob picked the questions, and Rob's a better question picker than Morgan.
I was going to say because we're
Why?
both like tired and raw and who knows what could come out.
Sure.
But yeah, that too.
Why
Rob's
are
a
we-
much better question
I
picker.
was just being a dick.
I know.
You know what? Not a dick. I don't want to demonize male sexuality like that. Rob was being rude. And that has nothing.
But that's it.
That has nothing to do with whether you have a dick or a puss or just a butt. If you're one of those people who
Yeah.
just has a butt.
Yeah,
and
if you're a
nothing
Ken
up front.
doll. Yeah. Yeah.
Ken doll doesn't even have a hole in his butt, though, does he?
No.
What's the doll? Not a real doll.
That has a butthole?
Yeah, is there a doll? Does Tickle Me Elmo has a big butthole that you can fist, right?
Well, any puppet, really.
Puppets. If you're into buttholes and dolls, you love puppets. Because the whole thing is about exploring that doll's butthole.
And using that exploration to manipulate everything they say and do.
Exactly. So if you're a dom who likes buttholes,
Yeah. Boy, do I have a toy
And
for
dolls.
you.
you should be into puppets. I think it's safe to say that anyone who's into puppets also likes those three sexual things.
Absolutely, with 100% certainty. The Venn diagram is one unified circle.
Yep. Wasn't
Case
the
closed.
guy? Wasn't the guy who was doing Elmo for a while Me Too'd?
Oh, I have no
They had
idea.
a documentary about him, and then they pulled it or something.
Oh.
I think they replaced Elmo, Elmo's puppeteer,
Oh, wow.
because he had some type of sexual misconduct. But I hate just making
feel
a
like that
blanket
has to
statement
overlap.
like that of what the puppets, people who are into puppetry.
Puppet people.
Have you ever seen Puppetry of the Penis?
No.
It's these two guys. It's like a Broadway show.
Okay.
These two Australian dudes come out and do all these different poses of their dicks. Basically, one is wrap it over the wrist, and that's the wristwatch, and they act like they're checking the time, but they're
Actually with their dicks.
yeah.
How
Yeah.
long is this show? How long could it possibly
probably
be?
8 inches soft.
A rare stinker from Rob.
Yeah. Extreme miss. How long is the show? Like an hour.
Oh, yeah.
They
I
have
mean,
the
I
Eiffel
can't.
Tower.
even-
They have the hamburger. They have the hot dog.
Okay, what would you
It's
do?
using the testicles too. I don't know.
What would be your signature move?
I
No.
don't know. The lady, the tuck.
What about the pool cue and the chalk?
I hit on this lesbian the other night.
Tell me about it.
And she was like, "Oh no, I'm not into boys." And I was like, "I could just tuck it between my legs, and we could
What a boy thing. Let me just solve this by eliminating my penis. That does not do
could just
it.
be
There are
done.
so many more problems than just that. I feel like guys always try to do that. We were just talking about this, gay or straight.
Yes, but let me just point out something that's a difference between lesbians and gay men in my
Please.
experience.
There are some for sure. I'm not trying to insinuate there are not.
No,
There are
I like-
plenty.
There are a lot of lesbians who become lesbians after unpleasant experiences with men. And there are not a lot of gay men that are becoming gay because of negative experiences with women. Or not because of
Okay, let's
necessarily,
unpack
but
that.
yeah. Okay.
Why do you think that is?
Men are more violent and potentially threatening.
Yeah,
Physically,
like that would push them
that
over the edge.
you can develop a trigger of just being around a person who reminds me of my abuser in that way, I feel powerless and just feel safer with women at a certain point.
Sure, but you're not saying lesbianism is a product of rough male sexuality, or are you?
Sometimes.
Okay.
I think the person's behavior. I think that everyone is probably somewhat bisexual, and women are more, for a number of
Flexible,
reasons,
fluid.
more able to tap into their bisexuality and find other women attractive.
Right.
And so women who may be more in the straight direction genetically or from birth, after having extremely negative experiences with men, I think may find it easier to like just tap into the attraction to women that they have and reject men.
Do you think that homosexuality is a choice?
I think a person's expression is a choice. Not the desire, but like, is being closeted a choice? Yeah. Do you not?
Right.
I mean, I think nothing is a choice. Like, blanket statement, free will doesn't
Right.
exist. But in the range of talking about things like that, like a person can decide whether, like, you can be gay and never express desire to another person of your gender and then never
Yeah.
have a gay experience.
Yeah.
That is a choice that you can make of like whether you're behaving,
But I do think
acting
there is.
upon your feelings.
But I do think that who you're attracted to, a lot of ways, is like an innate process, or at least something that's formed by very early experience that you don't have a choice over necessarily.
I agree.
Okay.
I think in noticing my own range of attraction expand,
Yeah.
I think that later experiences, like that, maybe everyone's attracted to everyone except we have these ideas that can be scrubbed away. Like everyone could be attractive if we didn't hold prejudices or certain disqualifiers. And as you chip away at those, more and more types of people become attractive to you.
Yeah.
But like the baseline is, oh, if it's another human being, I am drawn to them.
I think
and then we put up walls over
really-
time.
Yeah. Well, I think it depends on the availability of like people that you are attracted to. Like if
Yes.
there are
Yeah,
very
if you
few
grew up
people
on
in
an
the
island-
room.
Yeah, no, like if you grow up on an island, like say
Yeah.
the Wonder Woman
Yeah.
scenario of like you grow up on an island with only women,
Yeah.
everyone's gonna be a lesbian. People aren't. If you've never seen a man, you're not gonna be thinking like, oh, I need some dick, pussy's gross. Like if that's all you've seen, then I assume that your sexual attraction, like the innate desire in you, just gets projected onto whatever's available to you. It's like prison gay.
Okay. Yeah. Sure.
You might prefer a different type outside of that, but if you're never exposed to it, like, you know, if my thing is that I really like tall Asian women or something and I've never seen one, how is that my thing? It's just not going to be my thing.
Well, I think it also depends on your relationship with yourself. Like if you really like the qualities about yourself, you're more likely to be attracted to someone who shares that versus if you are in more of a self-loathing place or you're more reactive against the things about you that you don't like, you're going to pursue someone who's more opposite.
Sure.
So I think that applies in terms of exoticism, being attractive.
Sorry, you're going to seek somebody who's more opposite of you if you don't like things about yourself?
Yeah, I would say so. Or the qualities that you do like about yourself, you might look for those to be mirrored in your partner. And the qualities that you don't like about yourself, you may look for those to be the opposite. I mean, it can also swing on different relationships, like not just your relationship with yourself, but your relationship with your opposite sex parent or maybe your same sex parent
Gotcha.
or your sibling.
I thought you were going down a self-verification theory road where like
We can.
I thought that's what you were
attempt to
saying,
put a
so I
flag in
lost
a
it
self-verification.
halfway through about. But I think I get it now. Like if
I was
if
saying
I
you
just
might
like
be
my laziness, I
yeah.
want someone who's industrious to be my
Yes.
partner.
But what I was saying specifically about you being attracted to tall Asian women, like if you were short and not Asian.
Yeah. What's
and
the
you were-
opposite of Asian? Non-Asian.
Yeah.
Okay. Safe.
Yeah. Okay, Rob, what's the opposite of Asian? What do you think?
I asked you first. I'll tell you my answer.
I said non-Asian. I gave my answer. I'm done. I'm checked out of this.
Okay. Black.
I'm walking the safe black. Okay. Yeah.
There you go. We were all thinking it.
Sure. I don't know if Asian and black are opposite. I don't necessarily think that they are. You mean in terms of like just two races that you see as most different? Or like they're categorical opposites? Because I don't think they're categorical opposites. Like I don't think that. And then like what?
Yeah.
White people and Native Americans are opposites?
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, that checks out.
I think that's right.
I think no one would disagree.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's like, yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, cool. So maybe we should.
North, south, east, west. You know, what's the opposite of west, east?
Okay.
I don't know. I think you can also look like at the migration of humans and try and figure like,
Right.
what's the farthest split or the least intermingling between these populations, and you could do it that way. But
Okay, so then
but
I
know
would
that-
think like Nordic, very light, fair-skinned in all categories.
Yeah, is
would
the
be the
farthest
opposite
from
from
Asian.
African,
Oh, it's farthest from African.
who has dark, lots of
Yeah.
like dark skin.
The
dark
thing about
hair.
what I learned in my 9th grade world history class, shout out to Mr. Mambu, was
Mambu number 5.
Mambu number 1 in our hearts. The thing I learned was that there is more genetic diversity between 2 African people than you knew this already.
No,
Than
just
bet- oh, okay.
I'm feeling what you're saying.
There's more genetic diversity and difference between 2 Africans than 2 people from any other random places in the world, than from
Wow.
a Native American and a European person.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, it's like one group of people left Africa and spread throughout the rest of the world, and that was like a certain set of genes. But then a lot of
Yeah.
people stayed in Africa and developed more diversity and then evolved in different directions. So he was like trying to argue against the racist idea that like all black people are the same or have
Sure.
similar looks or something. He's like,
Yeah.
actually on that continent, genetically, there's
fascinating.
far more difference in facial features, height, and other like measurable things that come from your genetics than even like a Chinese person and an Argentinian person or something like that.
Yeah. I'm always fascinated by how much DNA we share with shit like a fucking dandelion. It's like, oh, we share like fucking 80% of DNA
Yeah,
with like
it's
something that looks
it's like
nothing like us.
50% with the black.
I know, but I mean, I'm
that's
just fucking making shit up.
Yeah,
but
that's just like saying that the letters are the same though in different languages. Just because we're using the same alphabet, even
Because
if the
it's
words
the
are
same,
totally
like,
unrecognizable.
it's all carbon and shit.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that a lot of DNA is just figuring out like how to do the basic building blocks of
Yeah.
growth or breathe or
Yeah.
I don't know what
fair.
plants do. But
All the other functions.
yeah.
Remember the like characteristics of something that has life and it had to be like
Yeah.
a certain number of things? That always fascinated me.
What do you remember what they are?
One of them was like growth, right?
Yeah, I think it's
Boy, I really don't know.
it's got to be able to either move or grow.
Yeah, right.
Maybe both.
Yeah.
Movement can be slow, but it has to be able to.
Yeah.
I think it needs to react to the environment.
That sounds great. That sounds right. That
Let's
sounds good.
say eat or somehow get energy, like from somehow absorb energy. I think reproduce.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to die, I learned.
Ooh.
Because I questioned that
Who gets to be immortal?
in Doc Mallow's 9th grade bio class.
Mallow and Mumbo?
Mallow and Mambu were two of the 3 OGs.
The premier
of 9th grade.
teachers.
Seriously, they had a great lineup when you first got to high school. It was like,
Wow.
wow, you're hitting us with the heavy hitters, and then you're going to slack for the next 3 years. But freshman year, you get some good shit.
Interesting.
Yeah. So Doc Mallow in 9th grade bio, I remember asking him, isn't a condition of something being alive that it has to be able to die? And he was like, no, some cells, some like bacteria will just divide over and over again. And they're not really dying. They've just continued dividing. And there's not a death of the original. There's just 2 new ones now.
Do you think that there is either a literal or figurative parallel between that and what happens with human life?
That like when you die, you split off and...
Yeah, or your energy somehow changes forms, gets recycled.
Yes, but only in a literal sense. Well, no, I also think your memories impact the people who knew you, and like you've changed the way that they live, so you do live on in a figurative sense through them.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that you may be tempting me down a road of saying that like
Oh,
your
I'm
soul
tempted.
energy inhabits a crystal that someone can wear around their neck, and then they'll start.
Oh, no.
Something
no.
like some immaterial supernatural soul concept that I don't believe in. I think the closest thing to a soul is like the memories that people have of you, and even the unconscious memories of the ways that like they now walk a little bit more like you because you went on a long walking trip together, and they don't notice that, but like their gait is a bit different, or their laugh is a mirror of yours.
Interesting.
That's what I think the closest thing to a soul is. I don't think that there's like a translucent ghost that floats out of the body or anything similar to that, like a smoke that could inhabit another being, and then like they could remember things that you.
I'm
did.
somewhere between that and something less like that. I don't think it's like smoke that you can see that just like someone else sniffs into their nostrils and then they're both of you. You know, like
yes.
But
Good. I was hoping you didn't think that.
No, that would call some things really into question.
Yeah.
But I do believe in reincarnation and the
to me that
things showing
necessitates a
up in the
soul of
body.
that kind.
Yeah.
That I don't believe in.
Yeah, I get it. I know that you don't. Anyway, should we touch on anything else before we dive right in?
I think that was good intro.
We pretty much touched on everything.
We touched on a lot of private places. I think it was a pretty raunchy start.
Could you show me on this doll?
Show you on this doll?
You know, like in a psychologist.
On this doll.
Yeah, what did you think I said?
The stall.
Oh yeah, show me on the stall.
Like,
no,
are we gonna go to the bathroom?
Oh no. Like in a court case or like a psychologist's office, it's like, show me where he touched you.
On the doll.
And I'm assuming it's a he, because rude. Dudes be rude.
Well, we're trying to disentangle that from
I'm trying to
masculinity.
tangle it right up. I'm trying to tie it into a bow.
Yeah, I just
double knot.
If you keep telling men that that's what they are, then
I'm just kidding.
That's like what they're gonna be.
I got you, but like I think I give men a lot of credit. I think I give men in my life way too much credit, if anything.
You do. You need to up your feminist credo, is what me and the other girls have been saying, to be honest. We're like, Morgan is like abandoning us? Like, have you heard her on that podcast? Like, wow. She even talks like a guy. Okay.
Not the first deep voice joke I've heard.
Lightning round. Down and down. Electric guitar. What has gotten you through the hardest time in your life? I'm going through a very difficult, dark time in my life. What has helped you get through dark times? This is from Briannamignon.
Well, Ms. Mignon, I wish you were a little more specific. But
about what?
What the hard times that you're dealing with. Yeah. Because then I could give you more specific advice.
This is really just a personal question. It doesn't sound like she's asking for her situation. She wants to know what's helped you.
Oh.
Maybe she'll
she
choose
wants
to use that or
about
not.
me?
It seems like she's interested in you. Yeah.
Specifically me? Oh my god.
Yeah, she's also kind of anti-feminist, deep voiced. She just really relates to you.
All right.
Yeah.
Since I'm your number one role model, I'll let you in on some of these things that have helped me get through hard times. Well, first, I think it would be important for me to say that the nature of my hardest times have been due to depression. I have chronic depression that goes between, mild, moderate, sometimes severe, and long and short moments of suicidal ideation. And honestly, it's been something different every time. Sometimes it's knowing that I have certain relationships, people that care about me, people that want me to continue to go on, people that rely on me for things, people that I can go to for emotional support, or just to be there with me physically and help me pass the time while I'm feeling these difficult feelings. Sometimes it is faith in myself that I've gotten through times that are this hard before, or even harder, depending on the context. So it's an understanding that I've persisted through a lot of shit, and it stands to reason that I will continue to persist through a lot of shit. And it's buying into that sense, even when you doubt it, that you have this internal strength. What else? Actually, those are two pretty important ones that I'll just let out there as my number one and number two answers respectively, and see what you have to say before I tinker with the second tier.
Yeah. The question is, what has gotten you through the hardest time in your life? I think hope for a specific, better future. The belief that things can get better, and the ability to imagine how they might, even if it's a small incremental way. And then I think what's really done it is accepting responsibility for something that I care even a little bit about. Whether that's helping another person that I care about, that I know is struggling, and feeling like, okay, nobody else is doing that. This is my responsibility to help them.
So having a purpose or more of a duty?
I think they're the same, just like it depends on the taste it leaves in your mouth. But those are the same.
Duty's
thing.
a little saltier.
Duty tastes like duty. Whereas purpose tastes like purpose.
I'm sure we can all feel what that tastes like in our mouths right now. Like
yeah.
frozen yogurt kind of pudding.
Yeah, like tapioca.
Yeah. Ooh.
Yeah, with the little balls in them.
Yeah.
Like original boba. Anyway, I'm trying to answer this question that's actually like pretty deep and kind of a weird pick, Morgan, for the lightning round. So,
You're right. I really erred there.
yeah, we'll talk about it. Maybe you let me pick the next one.
Yeah, probably. I probably will.
Okay, good. We
Do
can
you
agree.
have more things to say? Because I can jump in.
Oh,
with a
you
couple.
got some shit?
I got some shit. I was piling up some shit while you were pooping there.
Yeah, okay. I think relationships with other people that you care about, like,
Right.
that's the big thing. And especially people that are under you in some way. Taking
Yeah.
care of someone that needs you, like, then you have a need to be needed if you're like almost everybody. And that
Yeah.
if you fulfill that and you take responsibility and accept, like, okay, I'm responsible for this person's well-being on this one dimension or helping
Yeah.
them get this one thing, then that can bring you out of a dark place.
Yeah.
I think go ahead, you say yours.
Okay. I'll just do it. I'll
Yeah,
just
do
go
it.
right ahead. Second tier answers are two things. Number one of the second tier would also be checking in with my other values and doing something to further my pursuit of those values. Like if I'm feeling really shitty and I'm having a really hard time, sometimes I can just kind of put that aside and be like, you know what? I also really value learning something new. And so I'll channel my energy into some other pursuit that aligns with higher values. Because I think having that touch point of, okay, well, what brings, kind of like you said, what brings me that purpose? What feels like a worthwhile pursuit, even when I feel like I might not make it to
Yes.
the next week where I can reap the benefits of this thing. Collecting some kind of knowledge, building some kind of relationship, improving my space. I don't know, whatever other fucking values I have that I can't think of right now.
I think this is
Yeah.
going to come up in the main question too.
Yeah.
So I don't want you to entirely blow your load on this. I think
Okay, I
Brianna
won't.
should be encouraged to listen through the whole episode.
Fuck yeah,
At the
girl.
beginning, we've
You
got
got
some
this.
great content.
Yeah.
At the end, we got some great content,
Yeah.
and your portion, of course, is great content.
And so the last thing that I would
Yeah.
say is just along similar lines is just distract yourself. Just acknowledge that whatever is hard right now, you may not even be able to take action related to it to improve those circumstances. So sometimes all you can do is like create an alternate sensation, like go take a shower, do something that feels
The argument
good.
for escapism in limited quantities.
Yes. Escapism when there's nothing you can do to move the needle on the thing that you want to escape from and it's just too painful. You're kind of banging your head against the wall with it. And it would be better to just put it down, do something else that feels easy or pleasurable
Can
or
you
just
give an example of an
survivable.
escape for you?
Yeah, like I said, like taking a shower or watching a movie. Or
How do you know that you're watching too many movies? Is that possible?
I'm not much of a movie watcher. I really only watch them when I'm depressed.
Sure. So let's take
Going
a
too
more
far on
common
that.
escape like alcohol.
Okay, so something that's inherently potentially dangerous physically, you mean?
Yeah, or I don't know, social media addiction, or
see.
like there's plenty of escapes that we know lots of people that use,
Yeah.
and you're picking things that are pretty tame and like people
Yeah.
don't actually use that much. I think like
Sure.
So how do you know when you're
Sure.
using that your escape too
Something
much?
like that too much.
Yeah. I think it is still good advice. Like you can
Yeah.
drink sometimes, and that will help with a problem sometimes if you're doing it in a way that is not.
Yeah. I
habitual.
guess one thing I want to say
Yeah.
to kind of finish up the point I was making before I address
Okay.
this is that I had this therapist at Duke who gave me this sheet, this handout. It was called like the distress tolerance handout. And it was literally like a list of things that you can do to just have a different sensory experience. Like touch something cold, touch something hot, touch something soft, get a massage, call a friend to chat.
Do
Just-
2 push-ups, brush your teeth.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. Things that will just kind of flip you into being in more of your physical body
Yeah.
and less in your head and just experience a sensation.
Oh yeah, exercise. I forgot that's got me through the
Yeah.
darkest times. Definitely.
Yeah. But so there's also over exercising.
Sure.
So it's like, how do you know that it's in excess? If the problem that is created by an overuse of the distraction then outweighs the original problem. Because I think that there are things like
all we're doing is
depression.
trading in problems for slightly less destructive problems until we
Yeah.
trade up to something.
Yeah.
That's got
But
a
sometimes that's
positive.
okay.
Yeah.
Like,
No, I
Yeah.
think that's a great cynical way
Yeah.
of finding beauty in the world.
well, it's sort of like a harm reduction method
Mm-hmm.
of being like, okay, well, if, you're going to do something bad for you because you feel kind of shitty, but like you might as well, you got to participate in something destructive slightly in order to reduce the damage that could come from doing something else more. That was a really fucking terrible explanation.
Hey, you're doing okay.
Thank you. Because harm reduction is its own concept within like substance abuse. But perfect segue. What's the next question?
Sounds like the storm's coming in. All right. Mosquitoes and Me by
Ooh.
Alpha Argonian 182.
This sounds like it's going to be a poem.
Right. So it's 1:51 a.m. as I post this, and I'm struggling to get to sleep. Why? It's because of that loving, serene buzz of the damned female mosquitoes.
Specifically females?
This one particular individual isn't choosing to land. I can't seem to find it. Any tips? I've tried luring it with my iPhone's light. Also, more importantly, I've ended up developing a knee-jerk / trigger reaction, so to speak, whenever I hear the sound of a mosquito wing buzz. I don't know how to explain it properly. I get very angry, very agitated, and I have to get out of bed and find the damned insect. I can't sleep until I know they're all dead. Any ideas on why this is happening and how to deal with it?
Whoa. The dramatic reading really changed the tone of this one midway
You think
through.
so?
I do. I think it became very dire suddenly.
Well, he was like, also more important.
Yeah, yeah.
I took that as a cue. If I was highlighting this and writing my beats out like an actor, I would have definitely put a beat there. Like,
Yeah.
wait a second, tone shift. This isn't about what I thought it was about initially.
Yeah.
So, what do you do? Do you get that a lot? If someone's asking you for an advice with a superficial problem, and then they're like, "Oh yeah, actually, this is a huge trend, and it's not just this one thing."
And it's not about that at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where someone only feels comfortable saying a more sort of superficial problem, and then that comfort leads them into what they really want to talk about.
Yeah, like,
Absolutely happens
man,
all the time.
mosquitoes really bother me. My dad was never there.
Yeah. 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 So along the lines of mosquitoes, I've had a lot of trips or I don't know. Trips is a good enough word. I'll leave it at that. Where there have been mosquitoes at night.
Mosquitoes were a problem.
Mosquitoes were a problem.
Not
And
of the
so-
cousin variety.
Right. So what we had to do was before we went to bed, we would go on killing sprees.
Ooh.
And we would find all the ones that were around and kill
Suck 'em
them
up with a
kill them
vacuum.
before we. Well, we didn't do that. There was one.
Swatter? What'd you do?
So a
Salt
lot of times
gun?
they would be on the ceiling,
Okay.
and so they weren't regularly reachable at just standing human height. So this is when I was studying abroad and in Italy, and we were in these like villas, and there were just mosquitoes on the walls, just waiting for us to go to sleep so they could feast. And we started figuring this out because we would wake up in the morning with like a million bites, and then they have our blood in them.
So you could taste it when you ate them.
What we would do, yes, exactly. So what we would do is stand on the bed. My friend Lindsay would stand on the bed holding her raincoat and just look really nonchalant, but be standing right underneath the mosquito, and then just suddenly, whip it to the ceiling, and just it would splatter everywhere, and it was unsuspecting because her motion was so quick.
Yeah.
Oh, it was the most fun shit of all time. We had
Okay.
so much fun with this.
So bring in a friend, be statuesque, and then be lightning fast. Faster than the mosquitoes are not as quick as flies in getting away. Like a housefly can dodge you much better than a mosquito.
Totally.
Mosquitoes weighed down by all that blood. They're all full.
Sure.
What I hate about swatting a mosquito on myself is then I get a puddle of blood where it was, and I'm like, ooh, whose blood is that? Everybody's.
Yeah, it's a real danger.
Right.
All right, so that covers how do you actually kill the mosquitoes. So the next part is like how do you
So the
deal with
knee-jerk
just
trigger
the annoyance.
reaction, the kind of, I'm not going to diagnose this person with OCD, but
But it's out
OCD.
there. Earplugs would be one way. Earplugs and maybe like an eye mask. Because I know that like the most annoying part for me of a bug being around is being able to hear that buzzing and feel like they're going to penetrate your orifices. So if you have those things covered, like your ears and your eyes.
Fuck your ears.
Yeah, they fucking get in there and they're like, zzz, and they feel like they're right on your brain.
Yeah,
It's
ew.
awful. It's annoying.
Gross.
So if you can prevent yourself from even hearing
Yeah.
those stimuli, then you can just relax a little more and just go to sleep. And it can be hard to fall asleep knowing that they're out there, but I think reducing your immediate sensation of their presence can at least let you forget about it long enough to go to sleep.
I've got another one.
Please.
If you have a loving partner, you can ask them to help you by imitating the mosquito sounds so that you retrain yourself to associate that kind of buzzing in ear stuff with like, oh, this person who loves me. So you'll feel that and most of the time think it's them. And the few times that it is a mosquito, you'll still just think of them and you won't
Then
get
you'll
so
just
angry.
come.
You'll just come.
Immediately.
The mosquito will drink that instead of your blood and you won't have bug bites. Pew, pew, lightning round continuing. How can I make my voice seem more motivated?
Ooh.
Asks Electrosnout. I want to start streaming, but I have such a monotone voice that sounds like it cares about absolutely nothing. And that's no fun to listen to. So how do I fix that?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
I think that you would probably have more to say about this than I would.
thank
So
you.
I think you should start,
Okay.
and I'll add anything that I feel like crosses my mind.
Yeah, I want to specifically advocate for recommend this YouTube channel called Charisma on Command. They have an episode on using dynamics in your voice where they analyze Neil deGrasse Tyson and the way that he gets very small and then very big and uses pauses. And it's like, oh yeah, that's great. That makes it really interesting and
Yeah.
it draws you in.
Yeah.
The way that he speaks really rapidly for a second and then draws it out.
Yeah.
It's not the same pacing and it's
Really
not the same
dynamic.
volume. I think that you could just do an impression of these people. Like watch a video of him speaking, and every time he says a line, say it back as closely as you can to how he does it, and it'll be kind of fun. Like it'll be your own spin on it. You won't sound exactly like him, but then you can just practice using those techniques. Start weaving them into conversations like playfully, and maybe it'll sound silly at first, but then you may actually naturally integrate those tools into your speech kit.
Yeah, that's an amazing answer. The only thing
you.
I would want to add is you could, since the fear is specifically around being monotone, you could practice singing and the natural changes in the melody of your voice and how do we do and kind of
What a
bringing
good
a little bit of that
idea.
fluctuation in there and going high and low and stretching certain things out and then
Yeah.
holding it down. It makes it more interesting, and then you can kind of practice merging that sing-songy quality into your speaking voice.
Could be wrong, Electrosnout. Don't know you, but I wonder if there's a relationship between people who speak in a monotonous way and use monotones and people who don't find emotional changes acceptable. Like their emotional expression was rejected either by parents or early experiences and maybe have developed as a defense mechanism a kind of a flat emotional state or have learned that like emotional expression is dangerous or not accepted by others. If that is the case for you, if any of that is relatable at all, then it could be helpful to speak to a therapist or any other person that would provide you with a healthy relationship to accept whatever emotion it is that you, maybe it's all of them, whatever emotions you find unacceptable to other people or you have difficulty expressing.
Sure.
And you can take some real time to like exercise. What does joy sound like? And what does sadness sound like?
Yeah, we were just warming up for the podcast doing exactly this.
And like push yourself to a silly point where it's like, okay, that's
It's
so
ridiculous. It's
so
absurd.
theatrical and
Yeah.
like no one ever actually talks like that. But that's kind of like a stretch to your muscle that like get it to its limit of what your voice can do, and then you're warmed up and you're like willing to do minor fluctuations in it rather than
Right.
being that rigid like everything is at this level and this is all that I talk like.
Yeah, yeah. And also varying sentence structure and length. I mean, that kind of fits into the Neil deGrasse Tyson thing of like...
Or Yoda.
Or Yoda.
Those two are kindred spirits. Can you imagine a day in Central Park with NGT and Yoda?
Oh my God. I'm just imagining Neil deGrasse Tyson's hair and mustache on Yoda. That's all I can see right now.
I like that.
Yeah, it's really nice.
I hope Yoda does season 2 of Cosmos. I heard that they might not do it because of the Me Too accusations against NGT.
Oh.
But I think that they're going to do it. I know some animators who were working on it, and they've been posting like it's happening. So, I got the inside scoop for y'all.
What are they going to call the
Free advices.
movement of men who have been accused?
For like Me Too.
Instead of
people.
Me Too.
Not me. I don't know. Me three.
I like that.
Not me.
Not me. It's
Wait,
funny.
like men who have been accused and then cleared of it in the public court?
I mean, I guess it's just like a bunch of men sitting around being like, I also was accused of this. Oh yeah, me too. Like, here's my horrible story of I mean, I have a friend who was wrongly accused.
Yeah.
And that's a horrible position
I don't want
to
to
be in.
belittle that pain.
Of course.
Just because it's terrible and worse for somebody to be raped in that situation, it doesn't mean that a person who is wrongfully accused, like that can be... Yeah, there's no point in the Pain Olympics of like, well, just because something's worse, then you don't get to feel bad. Like if your reputation and if you lose relationships and like people can kill themselves over that. Like that's absolutely can be a terrible thing to.
Yes. I'm not trying to belittle the Me Too movement. However,
Me neither.
Oh, what was that episode of South Park where it was like everyone who had offended someone on some grand public stage? It was like Michael Richards, is that the right name? The guy who played Kramer.
Yeah.
And
it was on Jeopardy. People who annoy you, right? That one.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And it was like anyone who had used the N-word, they like were racist against those people. Like, we don't take kindly to your kind.
Yeah. What were they? What was that called? Do you remember that title? I don't either. Whatever.
I don't know. I remember the central joke
and
the premise of it, but the titles of the episodes kind of elude me. I don't memorize them.
Yeah, right. Sure. So
what?
Did we finish
next?
the...
You hear that storm on the
horizon? This is the slowest lightning round.
Boom, boom, boom.
This is like lightning round in slow motion.
Okay, Tater Tot 94 says... Young Tater Tot, only 25 years old, says...
Little TT.
Actually, get this. Would it be weird to give my 25 female boss, 40 female, so she was born in 94, boss is 40 years old and female. Would it be weird to give my boss a plant on my last day of work since she gave me one of hers? I moved the beginning of August. As a housewarming gift, my boss gave me a plant she's had for a few years. She repotted it and everything. It was such a nice gift. Well, I put in my 2 weeks notice because I found a better, more flexible, and better paying job. She was supportive of my decision and is even trying to get some of my vacation days cashed out. Totally unnecessary, but shows how good of a boss she is. Mm-hmm. I was thinking of writing her a thank you note and giving her a little plant on my last day to show my appreciation towards her. Do you think she'd find this weird or excessive? I want to maintain a good relationship with her moving forward. Thanks.
Fuck yeah. Give that bitch a plant. Clearly she wants a plant because she's giving you a plant. People give the gifts that they want to receive.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. She's looking for a plant.
There's nothing weird about that.
Don't give her the same plant back. That'll be misinterpreted as, you know, some type of guilt on your part for having taken the plant and the plant meant a contract to work there for longer.
Yeah.
So don't even think about that. Keep that plant she gave you.
Don't like rub your butthole all over it. That would the only thing that would make that gift weird.
Don't rub your butthole all over the plant that she gave you and give it back to her. I can't even. I wish that you hadn't suggested that in your question, Tater Tot 94.
I wish it wasn't implied.
Yeah.
I mean, it was pretty obvious subtext, but
yeah. Please find something else to rub on something else and give that to her.
No, I think that's a great idea.
What kind of plant should she give?
Ooh, good question.
Yeah.
Maybe a fern. That was just the first plant that came to my mind.
Okay. I'm going to say
thanks for nothing.
A ZZ plant
kidding.
would be good.
Oh, what's that?
Spelled, I believe, ZZY, ZZX or something.
Mm.
It's got a strange spelling. It's got like 4 Z's in it.
What does that plant look like?
It's stalks with little leaves coming out of them. Like it's a green stalk. And then there's kind of a oval leaf coming out of it with a point every like 2 inches apart. You've seen it.
Wow, that was a really detailed description.
I have one in my bedroom behind my computer.
Oh, okay. Cool. Yeah. I mean, give her something that's not too much of a chore to take care of.
The thing about them that's great is you water them like once a month.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but I think that's the perfect idea. And I think complimenting it with something that is to the effect of what you shared with us about how much you appreciated the gestures that she has done in your leaving.
A concise explanation of why you wanted to give her the plant because she's been such a cool boss, or however you word that.
Thanks
would
for
be a
helping me
very
grow.
meaningful gift. Yeah, exactly. Like, thanks for
like
looking
that.
out for me.
Yeah.
All of that, like what you said about her trying to get you cash in those vacation days. This shows that you appreciate this person.
Yeah.
You can even just say, "I really appreciate you. Here's a token of
And
that."
sorry, I'm leaving.
Oh, lightning round. It is over. The end of that.
Abruptly. Fantastic.
The storm is cleared. The children are playing in the streets.
Oh my God.
All right. You ready
Here
for
comes the sun.
the final question of the episode?
Fudge, yes.
If you're getting sad because you know that the episode is ending, I want to remind you, we have like 21 other episodes in the backlog. You don't need to listen to them in any order. The people of you who are thinking you need to start on episode 1. This is the guys.
People inside of you.
The fans in the club who say episode 1, episode 2, you got to go through them sequentially. I think you're really you're allowed to skip around, all right? This isn't like a Bon Iver album where you have to start on episode 1 and then move yourself slowly. Only once you get episode 1 can you go on to the next. No. Just fucking listen to the newest shit, or like whatever title you think is amusing or relevant to you, and just play that. Listen to one twice in a row before you hear another one. I don't give a fuck. Just do you, okay? It's not like, yes, if you listen to them chronologically, you'd probably witness some type of artistic
evolution.
growth. Yeah, you'd probably see me and Morgan.
Oh my God, we so different now. Oh my God, metamorphosis.
You'd hear Morgan turn into an Asian caricature in real time. Oh yeah, you did. You might not
I can't wait until we start doing a YouTube channel so people can see the expressions that I make when you say things like that.
Because you're actually making a black face, and there's a real contrast going on.
Guys, my shock is unparalleled right now.
No, you remember that old Mad TV sketch of You Look Like a Man?
That was my favorite one to do an impression of. Ms. Swan. Ms. Swan, I did the best fucking Ms. Swan you ever knew. People asked me to do it all the time. I was so good.
Did you know that Alex Borstein is Lois on Family Guy? Miss Swan is
You're fucking
Lois.
kidding. Why are you really asking me that question?
You knew that, I
yes,
guess?
of course.
Okay,
do you know how many of the
Family
Guy DVD commentaries I've listened to? Almost all of them.
I had no idea that you even watched Family Guy.
I was a huge Family Guy fan.
That makes
and
sense,
a huge Alex Borstein
you are kind
fan.
of a bro. Like, of course you love Family Guy.
And I love Alex Borstein specifically. Like, Ms. Swan, such a special place in my heart.
I really liked Nicole Sullivan.
Oh, yeah, she was great.
Yeah,
Antonia
I really liked
was a
her.
great character.
Yeah.
Little underrated.
Yeah.
I liked Stewart.
Stewart was great.
Who was that actor? Michael McDonald?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, he was in Austin Powers, too.
Yes, the guy who got run over or like, couldn't. Yeah. The really slow coming towards him. Oh, great stuff. Great stuff. Okay. Anyway.
The final question, now that you've properly grieved. And remember that we're going to come back next week, okay? This isn't like over forever. You still have the backlog. And there's other ways to find pictures of each of us online if you're really just craving that content.
And you can just talk to yourself about our content or about something completely different.
Or the friends that you've been listening to with at your Free Advice Weekly Listening Club every Wednesday at 2:30 p.m.
We encourage you to start your own.
Yeah, if you're not doing that yet, it's honestly the optimal way to listen to the content. Get yourself some tea, sit around, take your shoes off, kick them up on the table, make eye contact, put your arms behind your head, grin, and listen to the episode.
And take us up the ass.
Take us up the butt. Munky7, Munky 7 asks, how do I sit and learn for hours?
Whoa.
I didn't have school or a job for 2 years. Now I got a job doing programming, but I sit in front of the computer for 5 minutes and I can't do anymore. I just have this feeling that I want to do something else. I had anxiety and depression, but that's all behind me now as of last month. And especially...
I couldn't. I'm so sorry. I couldn't do it. We'll talk about that later.
And especially with kratom, it's all one... Especially with kratom, I believe it's pronounced.
Kratom?
It's like... It's slightly like alcohol. I believe it's like a green powder that is a drug that's popular in Southeast Asia, I believe.
Oh, wow.
Yep. Some people
I
report
thought it was
on
going to be a programming language.
No, I think it's like an alternative to alcohol in that it's kind of similar in the buzz that it gives people, but it's more safe, I think.
Okay.
It's not as well studied or documented, but some people say that it has like fewer addictive qualities or less of a hangover or other things like that.
So do you think this person is writing from a different... Where do you think they're writing us from?
I know people in the U.S. that do that, so I don't
okay.
think that
I've
it's
never heard
necessarily.
of it.
Yeah, well,
Not that means it doesn't exist, because I've
does,
not heard of a lot of things.
I believe it might also be pronounced kratum in the same way that it's ukulele, but everyone says ukulele. So, do you want to be that guy who's
kratum?
Correct? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, fuck you.
I'm not sure. Or kratom,
Anyway.
or, it could be a number of things that I'm not that familiar with it.
Got it.
And especially with kratom, it's all wonderful. I just have this little problem now that I'm not able to focus in code. Does anyone have any solutions to this? The fact that I didn't have any structure for 2 years adds to the problem. Now I feel that I need full control of myself. Like, I want to be doing nothing so that I'm in control. When I'm coding, I can't do whatever I want. Although, what I want to do is code and play video games. What now?
Well, that's fascinating.
Although, what I want to do is code and play video games. I don't have patience to play a video game for more than 5 minutes. What do I do? I have more to say. If you want to hear it, you can comment.
Okay. First, I just want to explain myself why I laughed when he said he had anxiety, depression, but not anymore.
Okay. Go ahead.
Many times I have told myself, woohoo, I'm done with this mental illness.
His
and then it hits
expression.
me so much harder. And then I'm like, why is this happening? I thought I was done. And then I feel really bad about myself. And then every time I'm like, oh, because it's never over. It's something you manage for your whole life. So, Robert, would you like to say something? I'm sorry. I called you
Who?
Robert.
Sorry, what? Who?
Roberto?
Yeah.
Robeezy.
Robeezy, yeah.
Robeezy.
Do I
and
want to say
Mobeezy.
something
Yeah.
about...
Yeah. To Munky.
Yeah, I think the expression "that's all behind me now" as of last month may be a bit of denial of the potential to relapse into dangerous thinking and like to not see it on a continuum. Like
Right, exactly.
a manageable amount of anxiety isn't chronic anxiety, it's just fear, or like a manageable amount of depression that's temporary is just like tiredness or like a desire to chill for a little bit. Yeah. And that's okay and not something that needs to be treated. It's when those feelings are overwhelming and get in the way of you doing things that are necessary for you to love or work that it becomes a problem that you need to more immediately take care of and find solutions to. And I think Morgan and I agree. Like, it's possible that this is behind you forever. I don't know what you did last month, but I hope it was that.
Keep it
good.
up.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's
Yeah.
working.
There's
But
some
it's
skepticism
hard
on
to
both
maintain.
of our parts that it's just good forever now because every time I've thought I've arrived and I finally figured it out and life's going to be easy from now on, that's never true.
No.
There's just something new comes along.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So.
And it's not to say like, so throw your hands up in the air and go, nothing works. But it's like, you have to kind of diligently, patiently apply the lessons that you've learned and accept the fact that you will have relapses.
Yes.
And then you will be stronger when you pick yourself back up. But I think let's get to the core of this question.
The title was, how do I sit and learn for hours? And it seems like the problem here is after 5 minutes of doing some computer programming, you have this strong urge to get up and do something else. I can relate to that.
Yeah.
Things that I really love and want to do. And as soon as I like sit down to start playing piano, for instance, I'm like, oh, I need to do something else. This is like, ooh, this is killing me. Extreme boredom or just interest in other things gets so strong when I've given myself an assignment like that. I think it's really important to remember why you started programming and maybe write that down and try to connect it, like visualize the end goal before you start the thing that you're practicing.
That's great advice.
Thank you.
Because that's the kind of ammunition that you need when you get into that internal argument with yourself of like, well, I could just get up and do something else.
Yeah.
I don't really need to stay here. It's like touching back into that version of yourself that you want to be in the future that needs to work on exercising this muscle. And in your case, the muscle would be elongating the period of time where you can do this very sort of mentally heavy, fatiguing kind of work.
Yes. Another tool that I think is really helpful is setting a timer for an amount of time that you have learned is acceptable to you.
Yeah.
And sticking to stopping when the timer goes off. Because it's terrible to constantly be interrupted by the thought of, should I decide to quit now? That slows you down so much. If you have an open-ended task and you get to decide how long you work on it, then the resistance in you whenever you hit a difficult moment will go back to the question of like, oh, it might have been enough time to stop now, right? But if you depend on an outside source for that, for instance, a timer, preferably one outside of your phone, because if you're fiddling with your phone, there's a chance
Right.
that you go into that. And
A really
world.
good chance.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So if you buy yourself like a $8 egg timer on Amazon,
Yeah.
then put that next to the place where you're programming and just set it for.
Try 6 minutes. Try something more manageable, but a
Exactly.
stretch.
Right. Try, if it's 5 minutes, like set it for 5 minutes and make that a great ass 5 minutes. And then if that doesn't seem like you're getting anywhere with it, make it a little bit longer the next day, or take breaks and do another 5 minutes after a 5-minute break. Like break it up and build slowly towards what you're going to. Trying to go for 4 hours immediately is a recipe for just quitting and doing nothing.
Yeah.
It's much better to do 5 minutes a day for a year than try and do 10 hours for one day and you get through an hour and stop.
The other thing that I would say is when you are in these focus periods where you're trying to program and then you're like, okay, I'm going to stop now. Get up and do something physical. Do something very opposite. Get something that gets blood flowing into your brain. Like eat something, run around, just change where the blood is flowing. Interrupt that pattern. Like make the most of that little break time so that you are kind of then again ready to sit down and use your eyes and focus.
Yes.
Although interrupting programming in this kind of stop-start way probably isn't the most conducive to like really solving a deep problem.
Sure. Neither of us are particularly talented or skilled programmers or practice.
No, I took like one class in college where I had to program.
Yeah.
It was hard and did require lots of like long hours, but I did actually find myself able to get lost in it. I actually don't really have this problem. I have sort of an opposite problem, which is that I have trouble having that internal conversation where I get myself to start a task. But once I've started, I can sustain focus for quite a while. So I don't have that much to say that's productive for this guy.
Well, I'd like to recommend Munky 7 check out the work of Gabor Mate. He's a Canadian doctor who has written some books on ADHD, and his theory is basically that if you are a sensitive person who suffers trauma as a child and you don't get to properly heal from that trauma, you will constantly look for distractions to keep you stimulated in a way that allows you to avoid the pain that is inside of you. And so he believes that ADHD can be cured by emotional catharsis and essentially therapy for trauma, which is a word that he defines very broadly. It could be trauma of like somebody hitting you. It could be trauma of somebody being absent or you having a need that is unmet by your parents. I was considering whether or not I had ADHD for a while, and I found his work very compelling, and it caused me to look into like, all right, did I have needs that were unmet? And maybe my distractibility or my constant needs for novelty are the result of that. So that's something that I've been exploring. And I think that there's a pretty compelling body of evidence that he uses to support this theory. But it is not one that the pharmaceutical industry profits off of. So it's not a mainstream something that doctors will recommend to you, likely.
I now remember the connection between this
What?
and the first question about distractions.
Yeah.
So I think that for that first question asker's problem of how do I get through something that's a hard time, the essence of that is
Briannamignon.
Briannamignon is just distracting yourself enough so that you can pass the time, and then the circumstances change on their own, and then they become less painful. Whereas this is kind of like distractions are inherently an avoidance of something that's not going to go away, but will become worse with continued avoidance. Do you feel like that's...
Yeah, I would not have given Brianna that advice that you did. I think that escapism, if it's chronic, or if distraction is, I think, like compulsive escapism for...
I don't necessarily think that.
I think that okay. Well,
like for me, when I've gotten lost in rumination, depressive thinking, it's not helpful for me to keep going around in those circles, and to just introduce a new stimulus is much more productive because it kind of restarts my brain, versus to continue to steep myself in negative thinking that isn't getting me anywhere and is just revving the engine. I think distraction is not compulsive. I think it's actually very hard to introduce a new stimulus when you're coming from that position, and it's helpful because it gets you out of that pit. This is very different.
Tater Tot 94, or no, sorry, who were we talking to? Monkey 7. Monkey 7 is not talking about ruminating and then
no. But Brianna might have been, so that's why I gave her the advice in
Okay.
that context. In this context, I
This
agree
sounds
with
like
you that
this
it's an
is
emotional
a distraction
avoidance.
that he's not choosing, but it's
Right.
Yeah.
It's the difference between trying to bring in an external stimulus to pull you out of something internal versus constantly battling your own nagging internal stimulus of I want to stop programming. I want to do something else. I want to da-da-da-da-da. It's you have to exercise the exact opposite muscle,
Yes.
digging yourself out of something versus keeping yourself in it.
I think that it also may be a function of all or nothing thinking, or a belief that your code has to be perfect. And I don't know whether, I think code may actually have to be perfect. It's like not like a script where I can tell myself,
Yeah.
like, okay, so
It's a
I've
little
had
more of a
this
science than an
problem.
art.
Yeah. I've had this problem in writing where like I sit down, I have 2 hours chunked away to write a script, and I sit down and 5 minutes into it, I'm like, oh, this hurts. Why don't I go for a run instead? Why don't I watch TV? I've been meaning to play video games anyway. Like some of the same stuff that you're saying, Monkey. And what's helped me is to take a deep breath, close my eyes, and then reframe it from I have to write something good to my goal is now to write something bad. It's totally okay. Like it's just to write something, and let that be the worst possible thing, and I can edit it later. I think if you have a very high standard for your code, this may be a useful technique to like write bad code first and then fix all the bugs and typos in it afterwards. I don't know. You may need to talk to a coder about that. But if this is a problem that comes up, you ask, how do I sit and learn for hours? This probably doesn't just come up with code.
Right.
Maybe you're attached to a certain idea of you needing to be the best or for it to be perfect. And as soon as that doesn't immediately, you don't get that immediate feedback as you start something, maybe that's what frustrates you and causes you to disengage from it.
So exercising your frustration tolerance is basically what you're talking about.
Yes.
And sitting in that feeling of, I'm really frustrated right now, and it feels like I'm maybe banging my head against the wall. I'd rather be doing something else that yields more of a productive result immediately. Because what I know from coding is it's hard. It takes a really long time. And sometimes you spend hours and hours and hours and hours looking for just the solution to a problem, tinkering with stuff, getting absolutely nowhere, breaking other shit. Like it's extremely frustrating and time consuming. And then sometimes you won't even find a solution to the problem. So it's a really big, really complex puzzle. And so that's going to inherently be frustrating, and you're going to need to take breaks. But I think my personal instinct into the best advice we can give you is to gradually stretch that window of tolerance of, okay, I can sit and code for 5 minutes. Fuck yeah. It's better than 3 minutes. Okay. Now I'm going to set that timer for 6 minutes. Fuck yeah. And actually get up, reward yourself, do some jumping jacks, sit back down with a little renewed energy, make sure you have a sip of water. You can even have some sort of ritual to that process of coming back to it that feels pleasurable. Thus incentivizing your body and your brain to want to sit back down and do it. You can even use something as simple as like, you know, after you make your amount of time, like 6 minutes and then 7 minutes, then 8 minutes, have a little Hershey kiss. Something that just connects the experience to getting to the end of a predefined period with something pleasurable.
I think sugar also is linked up in ADHD in a dangerous way. That
okay.
Picking a sweet as your feedback is, I think, what gives a lot of kids problems. And like, I have a big conspiracy theory
Sure.
about how this has happened. But
Okay,
so
rub your tummy and say something nice about yourself.
Yeah.
I don't fucking know.
Yeah. A little snack could be okay though, but specifically candy, I think could make you more distractible to like get in that blood sugar swings that I think it could be hard to sustain focus based on.
Let's go back to the substance that he said he was using. Kratom?
Yeah.
Okay,
I don't
how
know
does
too
that
much about
impact
this.
How do you think that impacts this? Is he saying that when he uses this substance, it extends his ability to do the activity?
He says, and I had anxiety and depression, but that's all behind me now as of last month. And especially with Kratom, it's all wonderful. I just have this little problem now that I'm not able to focus and code. Does anyone have any solutions to this? I think it's not a little problem. I think you got to recognize this as a potentially serious problem.
Yeah. Because you do have, with the anxiety and depression, often those layers sit on top. And once those are cleared, because they are sort of the more pressing things, once those are cleared, other problems emerge. And they aren't necessarily smaller. This could be much bigger.
Yeah.
This could take much longer to practice fixing.
I mean, if we're going the GABA mate route, I think that the depression and anxiety and the distractibility could all have the same root. They could all have the same unmet need that you had in childhood or somewhere along the way of something that you probably have an emotion about that you're not allowing yourself to express or feel fully. And maybe if you uncovered that with some time in therapy or talking things over with friends or even an interest in art that seems to speak to the issues that like really, well, that hit something in the core of me, and then follow up with books on that subject. That maybe then all three of these issues you'd find them dissipate.
And maybe we could even tease apart further. You could get some more information by trying to do something unlike coding for 5 minutes, like just sitting and breathing.
Hey, now we're talking.
Right. Because
What's
then
that
you'll get a
called?
sense of, one might call it meditating.
Okay.
Or one might be super patronizing by pointing that out.
What? Well, come on,
Yeah,
yo.
no, I'm just kidding.
Hey.
Hey now.
Hey, guys.
Anyway, the point I was trying to make is try to do something that's less difficult than programming for that same amount of time that you find yourself tipping over into I want to do something else. And that could allow you to see more clearly the voice that's trying to talk you out of doing the programming. Because the voice that's trying to talk you out of the programming has a very compelling argument, which is programming is fucking hard. But if you're trying to do something like sitting and breathing, then that voice has to come up with a whole new excuse for why we shouldn't be doing this thing. And it's going to be, it's going to reveal itself as like, oh, okay, that's the same tone. That's the same cadence as that voice that was trying to talk me out of that other thing. What if I just played with not listening to it?
Right. Yeah. I think that giving it a voice, like making it into a character that you can have a feeling about that character. I call it the resistance. And I think of it like a little mouse. Yeah, not like the cool French resistance. I think of it as like the opposite of hate or the opposite of love, kind of like the thing that keeps me from pursuing things that are good is the resistance.
It's this mouse that's always like...
Yes, it's a mouse in my head. And I've learned this tactic of turn up its voice very loud and listen to exactly what it's saying. Give it like 1 minute when you recognize it. And so that you've identified it. And then put it in a jar and screw the lid tight and listen to it just get muted in your mind. Just have that little visualization of, okay, that's what I just did to that resistance voice. And picturing that really does help me.
Yes. And then,
especially the listening part first. Even writing that out. Like, what is the resistance telling me? What would be so bad? And follow that for... Of course, you can use that as its own distraction of like following it down the rabbit hole. But if you're an artist, that can be like some great work can be made by being inspired by your anxiety or your resistance, sharing that. And other people are like, oh, yeah, I totally have that too. Yeah. But you're not. You're a coder. And That's good. We need you.
Yeah. So what I was thinking too, and I sometimes give this advice of like, once you put that mouse or that voice in a jar,
Yeah.
you can imagine yourself putting it on a shelf near you, where anytime you're tempted to have that voice re-enter your head, you remind yourself, no, it's over there. Because often what that voice is trying to get you to do is pay attention to something that seems like it's important for your survival. So it creates this role for itself where it makes itself seem like it's needed. And if you just remind yourself, I've put it on pause, I don't need it right now, and it's right over there where I can see it, and I can always pick it up if I need it again. But for now, I'm just going to let it be over there. That can be helpful.
Yeah. It can be like an id. It's like anything that doesn't give us immediate gratification is a threat. So it's trying to defend you from that by like just suggesting, oh, what if you ate some candy instead? Like, wouldn't that be better? Yeah, this is painful. We don't want any kind of momentary discomfort. But you know that in the long run,
you do.
It's worse if you're just eating candy and you're not doing any recoding. That causes more suffering. So you have to take that wisdom to that little voice and remind it. So that's why I think it's a good idea to write down your end goal of what do you want from programming. How would you feel if you were a successful programmer and you finished the project that you started? What would that feel like? Really imagine that, write it out, and maybe read over that before you're about to sit down to code. And I think that that's going to make it easier to keep the importance of it in mind.
Sometimes I also encourage people to imagine one step further from what you're saying is to imagine yourself as that future version that has made the right choices and reached that goal. And that person visits you and you get to have a conversation with them, and they tell you, you ask them, okay, what was the key to your success? What kept you going? And that just distancing yourself that much from asking yourself that question gives it the objective distance where your intuition can fill in the blank of like, what do I really need to do to accomplish this goal?
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Sounds like kind of like, I heard this idea of like dating your future self. Sounds kind of like that.
Sounds wacky. Tell me more.
I don't know, but if you're in San Francisco on September 20th at 8 p.m., come on down to the Exit Theater, where Rob Zaleski is going to be performing One Heart. What's it called? One Hump Heart.
One Hump Heart.
One Hump Heart.
Contrary to this advertisement, it's a very good show, and Rob knows all about it.
He knows all the words to the title.
Yeah. This is interesting because I think this is the first time you've voluntarily plugged your own show.
Oh, really?
I've asked you, do you want to do it, a few times.
Oh, really?
And it's interesting that you've chosen this moment. I love it. I'm obsessed.
Why?
I'm
it
excited.
was very relevant to the advice you just gave. It's not like out of nowhere. It's basically what I did in that show was imagine future you and what wisdom does he have for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I wasn't like looking for an opportunity to plug my San Francisco show. But like how sweet that I'm going up and doing it in San Francisco.
Yeah, it's fucking dope.
Yeah, so we should probably say goodbye to Monkey 7
and
now.
stop monkeying around.
Yeah. Whenever I start up this Ohm Writer app, it's an app that's meant to let you write, and I think program too. Well, like it's specialized for that, I believe, as well. There's like difference between Microsoft Word and some type of coding, text wrangler or whatever.
Sure.
Anyway, Ohm Writer is like say goodbye to the monkey mind whenever you start it up, because it's saying like normally your computer puts you into a monkey mind where you swing from vine to vine automatically.
Oh, I see.
And this is like allowing you to rest on one vine. And then as soon as you close it, it's like, welcome back, monkey mind.
So the idea is that this program only lets you use one
it's
certain
full
application.
screen, blocks all notifications, and you can't like see your toolbar or anything. It's like, it's just the text and you on the screen. That's the idea behind Ohm Writer, OMM Writer. They charge a minimum of $4.11 because of some Sanskrit or Jewish tradition, I don't know, where people are like fucking, they gift you an odd number of coin so that you donate the change away. They like give you a birthday gift of $4.11 because then you have to find someone else to give the 11 cents to. And the idea is like whenever you're given a gift, you pay it forward. So anyway, that's what this podcast is. And if that advice helped you, please share it with somebody else who may be struggling with a similar issue or another issue that you've already conquered.
Yeah, or
Like,
if
share the love of kratom. Just spread the gospel of kratom to the world.
and literally write us and tell us what it is.
Yeah.
That would be great, and how you pronounce it.
Yeah.
Because we're trying to learn too
Is
for
it
more than 5
ukulele?
minutes. We like to just talk over each other sometimes because we're both too committed to the sentence we're saying to abandon it.
I don't think it's a problem.
I don't think it's a problem either. It's not recurring enough that it is frustrating, but you tell us.
Yeah. And yeah. People can pick their favorite speaker and listen to that one at the moment we're both speaking.
Yeah, actually, you could listen to the whole podcast twice. Once you only listen to Rob, and
Yeah.
once you only listen to Morgan.
Yeah. It's in mono, so it's going to be tough to like just shut off your right speaker and only hear Rob or vice versa. If we paid for the extra Podbean podcasting package that lets
Yeah.
you upload stereo files, and if we ever start like putting music into the podcast, maybe we'll do that. But right now we're just in mono. And yeah, there is music. And in fact, oh, what's that? Oh, wow. Sounds like a gentle wind at Christmas time, doesn't it? It sounds like a gentle
It's much
Christmas
harder
wind.
to imagine when you're not hearing it, but you guys are hearing it, and listen to that Christmas
No,
wind.
I hear it. I hear it because I believe. Morgan don't believe in Santa Claus. Don't be like Morgan, kids. You'll get a whole sock full of coal. Get a sock coal.
Good night.
Good night, everybody. Sorry for my partner's brash tone when you were just resting your eyes and she hooted and hollered into your ear.
Listen, we're more tired than you right now, so I don't give a fuck. She don't even fuck.
Anyway, like I was saying, I'm really sorry for Morgan's
Beep, beep,
behavior.
beep, 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 beep.
But this is an opportunity for me to let go and realize that it's her choice to be obnoxious. I can only control my behavior. My
And
behavior
this is so not obnoxious
is
to me
going to
right
be
now.
very soothing. It's going to tuck you in.
But if they're on the road, they need to stay awake.